Well, he was born in the Isle of Wight and was a grown man. He was in his 30s. He was one of a family of 12. And they said the taxes were high and things were opening up here in the United States, and they thought that in fact, he had a sister who'd already emigrated, and they thought that they would come over and see about buying some land and moving to the United States. And so in 1820, he with his brother Richard, unmarried brother Richard, and a hired man named George Stretch, boarded the ship, ship, I guess, in that case, and came over and landed in Philadelphia, stopped and visited his sister, and then came down and they bought a boat and floated down the Ohio River. They were aimed towards what is now Illinois. There was lots of literature out about, and people had been reading. He'd been doing a lot of reading, and he thought that's where they should go. They stopped at Cincinnati for provisions, and a Dr. Drake, who was known in Cincinnati history as a historian and a medical doctor, said, "Oh, you don't want to go there." He said, that's got swamps. That's unhealthy, very unhealthy. Malaria was a big problem with pioneers, and they did not understand the point that mosquitoes played in it, but they certainly knew that if you were in swampy land, you were much more likely to come down with it. So Dr. Drake suggested that they come to this new land that was just opening up, that's now Indiana. So they sold their boat and bought horses and got a man who could run section lines, and they came on horseback through virgin wilderness. Of course, the Native Americans were here. They had signed treaties and were leaving. They had signed treaties and that they were to go west of the Mississippi, but they were still there. And so they went through and found this place and liked it so well. After John was gone, my husband and his brother had helped Leslie. She tried to stay and farm for 2 years, and they helped her. But when she just couldn't do it, she had children, and machinery was not anything that she could work with, and she finally gave up and went back to Iowa where she was raised. And so then we rented out all the farmland, and still lived here. And then my brother-in-law and my husband both died, and the farming was only with good friends and neighbors who were renters, but there was just, the heart of farming was gone. The tractors still only came in once in a while, and then when Emma and Oak decided to come back, and there were tractors, and there was people with caps, and there was things going on, and the ground was being turned, and they were bringing in vegetables, and then the continuity of it all, to have the family coming on. Then they had children, and they named their second little one John Arnold, Luca John Arnold Hawk, and got the little guys running around, and it just was a blood transfusion for the farming.
When we started out, it was really kind of just what we had grown before in gardens, or I worked on farms growing up, so like what I had some experience with, and then also just what we'd seen at farmers market, what other people were growing, and what we knew folks might be eating. In the 5 years or so since then, we've really kind of dug in and focused a lot more on what we think sells really well, what we think grows well on our soil. We've had 5 years of experience seeing like what grows well, what doesn't grow well, what we struggle with. Some of that's the soil, some of that's us. So it's parsing that out, like what causes what. Is essentially impossible, but you got to try. And then the other thing we've been introducing a lot more the last like couple years is just like what we really like growing, like what we're really like passionate about. So like bell peppers and kind of specialty sweet peppers, we really like growing them. They seem to grow well here. And so it sort of checked enough boxes that we were like, let's go with peppers. So we've kind of expanded that and then backed off a little bit on some of the crops, like anything that's really like labor intensive, like fresh greens, green beans, anything you have to like spend a lot, like that needs to be picked by hand or washed a lot, just has not been working very well for us the last couple of years, just not without a big labor force, essentially.
I think the biggest influence that Granny has had on me is how to be a good mom and also a part of the farm. It's because the family farming, it's all one. It's all so tied together. And so I think Granny has always handled that, where everything is important. The family is important, the farm is important. And it's hard to find that balance. And she has always been great at it, and always so loving, so sweet, so caring, such a like beacon of leadership and greatness in our family. So I mean, it is 1,000% because of Granny that we can farm. Like, she helped us with our startup funds to get like a tractor, because they had sold off all of the tractors and stuff when John had died. So it was like, you know, we needed some startup funds, and she was like, you know, this is what's important to me, is the farm family. And it's what's important to me too. So it's like, you know, she needed us to do the work. We needed a little capital, and that's how we moved back, basically. I think if I could say one thing to Granny, I would say thank you. Like, she, just for everything, for literally always being there throughout my life. Like, if I ever called her, for sure, she would help me with anything I needed, 1,000%. And she's always been there. She's just so supportive, so sweet, like so generous. And I think like this wouldn't exist without Granny, without her ideas even. Like, it was her idea to support my brother in starting it up. And then it was her idea really for us to move back. Like, she was like, if you guys move back, I will help you guys get started farming. So it's really 100% because of Granny that we are here in farming.